Hello all, welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing a free-to-play friendly guide by request. Somebody wanted to see the team that I use to farm Dragon 24. So I thought I would just do an entire guide on the progression of Dragon with free-to-play champions that I followed on this account. First off, Dragon is, along with Clan Boss, the most important area to focus in the early game. I think it was around day 44, 45, somewhere around there, when I started, was able to get up to Dragon 20 and start farming it. And I used Apothecary, War Maiden, Kale, Shield Guard, and Broadmaw. If you don't get Apothecary early, you do have to change it up a bit. You're going to need to find a way to heal your Broadmaw so he doesn't die. So champions like, if you get a Bellower, you can put him in it. Well, you probably won't have a good stun set that early, but Bellower's nice. Reliquary Tender, you could use her if you pulled one. Mother Superior has a decent heal, though it's not nearly as good as Apothecary. And then a champion that everybody can get, Jamarsa. If you do the referral accounts till I think level 20, you can get a Jamarsa, and she'd be definitely worth maxing out in the early game. I think you get a lot of use out of her. And you can, this Shield Guard can pretty much be anybody, but a couple of good picks here would be, I'd say Gnarlhorn. Gnarlhorn is like an MVP for wave content. If you pull an early Gnarlhorn, the nice thing about these champions, apart from War Maiden, all of these champs are very useful in other parts of the game, like Doom Tower and Faction Wars. So you're never really going to go wrong maxing a Gnarlhorn. You'll need him for secret rooms and hard Doom Tower eventually as well. War Maiden is questionable whether you want to take her to 60. On most normal accounts, you'll probably pull somebody better by the time you need her. Like if you get a Deacon, that's a straight upgrade. Ugo, straight upgrade. Basically anyone with AoE decreased defense. Stagnite, Duke the Pierced. But if you are unlucky and you are stuck with a War Maiden, she is fine to take to 60. You can use her as your arena debuffer. She's good in pretty much all the dungeons. She's good in normal Doom Tower as well. But I did pull an Apothecary early, so this is the team I rolled with. And Shield Guard. Now, Apothecary is there for defense aura, speed boost, turn meter boost, and heals. Broadmaw is your reviver because these guys are really squishy. They're going to die multiple times. You need Broadmaw to be able to keep the team going. And then your damage dealers are just wave clear. So, decreased defense. Broadmaw's going to do what Broadmaw does. He's got an A1 freeze, which is quite nice. Shield Guard is weak affinity here, so you might want to switch that out. But this is just what I used, because I didn't have anyone else built. And the really nice thing about this team is all of these champions, minus Broadmaw, can be used to make a really solid Nightmare Clan Boss team in the early game. So once you get a team of them to 60 with War Master, you could start three or four keying Nightmare with your Kale, Shield Guard, Apothecary, and War Maiden. Your fifth member would have to be either a Coffin Smasher or like a Bog Walker or somebody with A1 attack down, or just whoever you pull that's really good you could slot in. Shield Guard is probably a waste to level on most accounts, but I used him not only in Dragon 20, I used him for my Spider up to like stage 13. so I could farm stage 10 and 13 in the early game. I don't know. I don't think I used him in Fire Knight. Or maybe I did early, but he never made it to my Fire Knight 20 team because he just doesn't bring enough for that dungeon. But as you can see, the waves are gonna wreck your damage dealers. But slowly and surely, Broadmaw's gonna keep the team going and get everybody through the fight. Dragon is an important dungeon in the early game because of lifesteal. Not only that, you get your speed sets here, some accuracy sets. Stalwart set is good. Destroy set is niche. Toxic set is niche but useful in certain places. But there's direct upgrades to all of these champions. This is just to show you like a bare bones free to play team to get you to Dragon 20 so you can start farming better odds on the good gear. In terms of where you should be farming, what stage of Dragon, 20 is obviously the one you're going to stop at first. I wouldn't bother farming anything under 20. Maybe you could farm 16 for a bit if you're stuck, but you can get to 20 fairly easily within like a month and a half, 2 months if you're playing the game consistently. And this is where I've started farming. 20 is the best for event points, so like dungeon divers and dragon tournaments. And then after that, when you're ready to push up, which was around day 130 for me, I moved up to Dragon 24. And 24 is the best dungeon level to farm for gear. So just in an average of getting a lot of good 5 and 6 star epic and legendary gear sets, stage 24 is your best energy per gear ratio. And then stage 25 is specifically just for people who are looking for like only 6-star legendary gear. They want the best odds on 6-star Lego. Or if you're farming it for during Clan v Clan for CVC points. Generally, I would say if you can farm 24 on auto, stay there. The only time that's questionable is when you start getting into dungeon solos and duos. Sometimes your solo champ can be the wrong affinity, so you might want to move up to 25. But I probably would avoid farming 21 through 23. I'd stick with 20 or 24, or in the odd case where you need to, for your dungeon solo or duo team, go up to 25. So it's just a basic team. Nothing too special. Broadmaw and Apothecary are basically the backbone to the team. And Kale, who's, in my opinion, the best starting champion because of Dragon's Lair. He carries the damage on the waves and on the boss. So when you're looking to move up to 24, by now you've got your Broadmaw replacement, which is Arbiter. She's just way better than Broadmaw. You might have a Scyl by now. If so, you can use her. If you don't, Archmage Helmet is an amazing champ for this. And this is where you're going to need some crowd control. So a champ like Gnarlhorn in a Frost set is insanely good. For your supports, the speed in these dungeons is everything's running at 100. So for your crowd controllers and your supports, you're going to want to try to get over 201 speed, which will let you go twice for every time they go, which is going to be even better with increased speed and all the turn meter boosts. You'll just see the level of control that Archmage and Gnarlhorn bring to the run. AoE provoke, 100% chance to land. Can't weak hit because he doesn't attack the enemy. And then Archmage Helmet, who's strong affinity here. You do need to build crit on him to get his stun, but I have mine in a stun set. So between the two of them, the enemies rarely ever get a turn, and when they do, they could get frozen by Gnarlhorn's frost set. So it's just a really good tag team for locking down waves. The major issue with Dungeon 24 is the Spirit Host here. If she gets a turn, she basically cleanses and puts up a block debuffs, which means you can't crowd control them anymore, and that can basically throw your run off. On wave 2, you have double Luria, and if the Luria kills your champion with her block revive move, then suddenly you've got a KO you can't revive, and then you fail at the boss. So bringing wave lockdown is necessary for bringing squishier champs through the dungeon. In terms of resistance and accuracy, generally for Dungeon 20 you can get by with around 180, 190 accuracy. Obviously you want to get to the 200 mark for consistency. But I remember running Dragon 20 with like a 170 accuracy KL for the longest time. And it just makes the boss take longer, a little bit riskier. And as you go up to Dungeon 24 and 25, the accuracy requirements stay the same. So the dragon has, I think, 200 accuracy and 200 resist. So if you want to resist the debuffs, you're going to need around 300 resist or so. A little bit more is better. Once you're farming Dragon 24, that's basically all you need to do for the rest of the game. You might want to set up a dungeon solo or duo team. Solo is kind of hard to set up early in mid game because your gear isn't quite there yet and your Great Hall, which is why I opted to set up a dungeon duo team, which I'll show you once this run is complete. But you can see those Lurias are the danger here. If they get turns, they can block your revives. But Gnarhorn and Helmet seem to be doing a pretty good job of keeping them locked down. There's the provoke again. You can use a team of Apothecary, Arbiter, and Helmet in Spider 20 as well. I actually still use them in my Spider 24 team, along with an AoE HP burner. Great in Doom Tower too. When you're playing early game to mid game, you want to make sure the champions that you're leveling all have multiple purposes. So like Archmage Helmet, he's insanely good for Faction Wars. Great for hard Doom Tower. Great for dungeons. Gnarhorn is good for wave content. Great for Faction Wars. Good for secret rooms. And then if you build these champions correctly, you can use them in like pretty much every area of the game. Especially champs like Arbiter and Scyl. So we get through with minimal damage. We also don't do a lot of damage, but that's okay. You'd rather it be safe and consistent than fast until you're in like the mid to late game, and then you can start worrying about your speed. Once you're onto the boss, it's basically just Kale doing all the damage. Everyone else is just there to kind of keep the team alive. You'll notice Apothecary resists the poisons and the weakens. He's the only one that's really built-in resistance. If you're doing like a solo, a dragon soloer, I think most of them require you to build resistance to resist that. But in a team like this, it's not really important. Alright, I think you get the idea. I'm gonna pause it and we'll come back when the run's finished. Alright, so that was an 8-minute run. That's a decent boot. I'll keep it and hopefully it rolls hit points. Not ideal, but again, if you're running these earlier in the game, you're going to be happy just with a consistent clear. Doesn't necessarily need to be fast. Dragon 24, you're going to be getting a lot of good gear from it. And that brings me to how I run Dragon today. So I use Scyl and Venomage. If you don't have Venomage, maybe you got my Kiliak Priest Ornn. He can work as a duo. If you got Ultimate Death Knight, put him in a Toxic set and he can work as a duo. Where's mine? Oh, here he is. Not quite 60 yet. He can work as a duo. There's a ton of champions like Tomb Lord, Theodore. And the nice thing with a duo is you're going to get the extra safety net of having Scyl for stuns and revives, as well as some heals. So usually, if you're trying to do this early, you're not going to have the gear to gear out a soloer champ to survive 100% of the time. So instead of running inconsistent runs, just go with the Scyl and Venomage. And I'm going to run them with some food. And this is a good way to use your energy efficiently during a dragon tournament. So you're going to dramatically speed up the run if you get that stun, if that stun lands on Spirit Host. Having Smite on Scyl is always good as well. Just do a little bit of extra damage. And then Venomage is our main damage dealer here. Or anybody with lots of poisons you can use. And they're in Regen and Immortal, just to help keep them topped up on hit points so they don't die. Okay, so we missed the stun on the Spirit Host. So she's going to cleanse all the poisons off. Oh, no, she didn't. She got baited. Oh, she got baited into hitting the guy that was close to death. So that's a funny little thing with AI. If they know they can get a kill, they often use their A1 instead of using their regular move. So no big deal on the first wave. Second wave, same thing. The only difference here is these Luria can block revives. It's not going to be an issue for your main two champs because they're built so tanky with enough sustain. But here's where it gets kind of iffy. I didn't have enough gear to build Venomage with enough resistance and defense to survive this wave, which is why I brought in Scyl. When he's alone, he dies here. And that was a pretty lucky run. We didn't get any cleanses. So this is going to be on the faster end of what the run usually does. And then on to the boss, where Venomage is just going to stack poisons. Scyl will throw up a smite every once in a while. Decrease attack is nice. Decrease defense helps. $300,000 damage from the smite, man. Most OP awakening in the game. It's even still kind of useful in PvP, that smite debuff, though not as useful. There goes the smite again. Both Scyl and Venomage have Spirit Haste. So when the food is dead, they gain more speed. Really helps them cycling turns to get the boss down quickly. So this is the team I use to farm dragon whenever there's a dragon tournament. I use the same duo with 3 food for Ice Golem 24 as well. And I'll show you the gear on the champions that I've been using here. Okay, so I'll show you the free-to-players first. We've got our Apothecary in the Relentless and Speed. He's been in a similar set for the whole time I've had him. Again, Tag Team Arena tournaments will get you a ton of 6-star LEGO Relentless if you can win them early on. He's fully booked. The major key here is 2 turns on his heal, and if it crits, which you do want to build him with some crit in his build, when this crits, it's almost like a full hit points heal. And then he cycles this as well. Just helps your team to keep moving. Early game, if you're putting him in Clan Boss, you'll want to go down to Giant Slayer and support. End game, if you're using him in harder content, you'll probably want Blast Proof and the Resistance. So it just depends where you're going to use them. And then super end game, once you have the best of the best gear, you probably go back to Giant Slayer. But for the mid game to the late game, I like this build. My War Maiden, Lifesteal and Speed. She just needs to go faster than Kale. Over 201 speed. She's kind of low on accuracy. I just didn't want to waste silver leveling this because I don't really use her anymore. She is fully booked. You can farm her from campaign. And then she's in a hybrid arena debuffer / clan boss / dungeon build. I went with Shield Breaker because she was my arena debuffer into Ruthless Ambush to try to break shields if any team had shields up. And then Kale would follow up with his nuke. Master Hex her to increase the duration of poisons and decrease defense. Yeah, nothing, pretty straightforward. You can disable her A2 for Dragon, so that she just spams her A1 more, which gives you more chances for poisons. Kale here, running in his hybrid Arena Clan Boss nuking build. I used him, yeah, I still use him in my Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss team, actually. And I used him for pretty much every dungeon, as well as my main arena nuker in this build. War Master for extra damage on bosses. Whirlwind of Death for more speed after he kills people. You just want to make sure that the 18 speed you get from this doesn't put him past War Maiden. So keep that in mind if you're going to take Whirlwind of Death. And then generic accuracy with increasing the duration of poisons and extra chance to land poisons. Kale suffers from A1 is 100%, but his A3 is only 50%. So if you give him the 5% extra chance, that's a 10% extra chance. It's a 10% boost. 5% of 50%. Yeah, I think you understand what I mean, hopefully. I have Phantom Touch on him. I think that's just the best awakening for him because he's an attack-based nuker. He's going to do a bunch of extra damage with that. And I showed you his masteries already. Broadmaw here is in Relentless with just a Resilience set for more HP and defense. Nothing special here. If you don't have Apothecary, you might want to put an Immortal set on in addition to the Relentless. He's got a decent amount of resist, enough for like normal Doom Tower, and enough accuracy for normal Doom Tower. And the rest into just speed and tanky stats. His A1 freeze is a 45% chance to land, and it's pretty inconsistent, but it is clutch when it does show up. And then, of course, his 4-turn revive. The nice thing about this is the block damage. So he'll get 2 people up, and then they're guaranteed to survive the next round of attacks. In terms of masteries, I went defense for extra tankiness. Retribution for a chance to freeze when he retaliates. And then I went down to timely intervention. Spirit haste for more speed when people are dead. Just generic stuff like that. You could go for unshakable if you want to build more resistance on him. It's not a bad idea. My shield guard is in a lifesteal set. He's a reasonably good nuker for wave content and for early spider. Depending on what you pull, though, you might never need to build a shield guard. Yeah, I just went with Ruthless Ambush. I think I was going to use him in Arena at some point, but I never did. Down to War Master to help him heal himself. And then some defense masteries. Gnarlhorn is rocking a Frost set and a Frostbite set. You can put him in Immortal sets. Frost set is really good on him. You might not have a Frostbite set for a while. But once you do, that's a good secondary thing to put on him. And you just want him to be fast with a lot of accuracy and tankiness. He definitely needs some better gear for his hit points here. Fully booked. Fearsome Presence for more chance to land freezes. And I went with this because I was going to put him in an arena team. And I still might one day. But I never got around to it. Archmage Helmet. This guy's a beast. Stun set and Immortal set for some self-sustain. Revenge accessories, which help him get some more turn meter when he retaliates. You do need to build crit on him, so he's one of the hardest champs to build. Because you also need him to be pretty tanky with a lot of accuracy. But I prefer stun set. And then I think I would go Fearsome Presence now. I just went War Master for Faction Wars because I don't have a damage dealer in that faction. But if I do rebuild him, I think I'm going to go down to Fearsome Presence. And then generic accuracy masteries. Arbiter, once you get her, she changes your game. You can use her literally everywhere. I have her in a hybrid arena booster / dungeon build. Lots and lots of speed. Lots of tanky stats. Resistance and accuracy aren't very important on her. I guess accuracy depending on the content, and resist certain bosses you'll have to build her into a resistance build. But this is a general all-purpose build you can use pretty much everywhere. She is 100% worth the books if you're going to use her outside of Arena. And for masteries I went with Unshakable, although Timely Intervention is probably a better choice. Unless you're building her for resistance for a specific boss. And finally, my duo team. We've got Scyl here in her signature Relentless Perception. Very high resist for hard Doom Tower. High accuracy for hard Doom Tower. Rest into tanky stats and speed. And her masteries, I go Fearsome Presence for extra chance to land the stun. You can go for Unshakable as well if you're having trouble building her high resist for certain stuff. And then down to Spirit Haste for more speed when allies are dead. Lasting Gifts is pretty nice to increase the duration of the speed buff she places. And then Venomage, Regen and Immortal. It's your typical dungeon solo gear. His defense and resistance are too low in this build. So if I was going for a dungeon solo only build, I'd probably put an accuracy banner on, or a resistance banner on. But I use her in hard Doom Tower, so I need the accuracy. And then I would just look for more defense from somewhere. Yeah, like, I don't have the best accessories on her and stuff like that. I'm still using some 5-star rare gear. So, definitely room for improvement. Her Masteries, I've gone for some defense. And then Oppressor. Just gives her more turn meter fill rate for having debuffs out. Spirit Haste to increase her speed when food dies. And then generic accuracy support augments. So yeah, that's basically the free-to-play progression for Dragon. It is one of the easiest dungeons to complete. It's just a mixture of crowd control, revives, heals, and damage. So generally, the more crowd control you bring, the slower the run will be. But you do need some crowd control if you're going up against those Lurias in 24. So yeah, that's the update. I'm going to be posting a video on the main progress series, probably in a couple of days, to show you what I've been working on. So if you're wondering where that's been, it should be back in a couple of days here. And I thank you for watching. If you enjoy the videos, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.